everybody, this is Petrichor Black here, and welcome to the Skulls General Reviews, episode 42, in which today I'm going to be reviewing something that I actually meant, or I was actually intending to review in the Skulls General Reviews month event, actually, and that is the Target novelisation of The Edge of Destruction. So without further ado, let's begin this Doctor Who book review by taking a look at the presentation of this Doctor Who book. And yes, this is the hardback edition I'm going to be reviewing for this video, because I don't have the paperback yet or audiobook. This is the only edition of this Target novelisation I have, or version of it I guess you would say. So for the cover we have Doctor Who, the sort of Sylvester McCoy logo and that black stripe that was on like all of the later Target hardbacks, I think, as this is one of the latest Target hardbacks that was published. It was towards the end of the Target hardback run, and this is the latest Target hardback I have in my collection. So we have The Edge of Destruction, Nigel Robinson, and then for the cover art itself, it's absolutely stunning. We have the TARDIS console, this sort of circular pattern of TARDIS walls with the Doctor beautifully sort of melded in and composed with the TARDIS console and the TARDIS walls there. Very, very lovely cover. And then for the spine we have unfortunately a bit of a miscoloured spine. It's supposed to be the sort of mustard yellow you see on the back, I think, but mine has got a bit of discolorisation from it. But we have Doctor Who, The Edge of Destruction, Nigel Robinson, W.H. Allen, and then for the back we have the synopsis, who this book was distributed by, original UK price which was £7.95, and then the barcode. And now for the synopsis. In a final bid to regain control of the TARDIS's faulty control system, the Doctor is driven to experiment with a dangerous, untried combination. With a violent explosion, the TARDIS blacks out and the crew find themselves trapped inside. A simple technical fault? Sabotage? Or something even more sinister? Tension mounts as the Doctor and his companions begin to suspect one another. What has happened to the TARDIS? Slowly a terrifying suspicion dawns. Has the TARDIS become the prisoner of some powerful fifth intelligence which is now even haunting the Time Machine's dark and gloomy corridors? And then for the interior of this Doctor Who book, we have a torn out front page, with a sort of library stuff at the top. Doctor Who, The Edge of Destruction, based on a BBC television series by David Whittaker, by arrangement with BBC Books, a division of BBC Enterprises Limited. Nigel Robinson, W.H. Allen, London 1988. And we have more various library guff and copyright guff there, with the chapter index, which this book is a 113 page long Target spread across an introduction, prologue, 10 main core chapters, an epilogue and a conclusion. And then at the back of the book we just have blank pages there, that's the end of the book. So yeah, it's really interesting because this book, I guess you in a sense sort of acts as a standalone Target with with the introduction, literally introducing the story and sort of recapping the events of An Unearthly Child and the Daleks. And then here is like the actual start of The Edge of Destruction, the sort of setup for the book in the prologue, which then sort of goes into chapter 1, which I can't quite find, but you get what I mean, or there's chapter 2. And then the epilogue itself in the book sort of concludes the events of The Edge of Destruction in this book, and then the conclusion sort of is the aftermath of the whole Edge of Destruction events in this Target novelisation. It's a very interesting structure for a Target novelisation. But with all of that out of the way, what is the general consensus, as well as my own personal thoughts and opinions on The Edge of Destruction Target novelisation by Nigel Robinson? As for the general consensus on this targeted adventure, it is extremely positive on Goodreads, with an average rating of 3.55 out of 5, with no negative reviews reaching lower than 3 stars on the Surface page. Do I agree or disagree with the general consensus? Let us find that out. The Edge of Destruction is easily one of the most underrated Doctor Who stories in existence, in my personal opinion. I would even go as far to say it's a classic. Many people shove this story underneath the vast bulk of the rest of Doctor Who, dismissing it as a dull, tedious 50-minute slog. I personally feel that this story greatly benefits from being watched in sequence with An Unearthly Child and the Daleks, because Edge makes it feel like one massive 13-parter for the main cast of Doctor Who. Or the main cast of Doctor Who, the Doctors Susan Foreman, Ian Chester and Barbara Wright. And Edge of Destruction sort of ends off that sort of trilogy very nicely by having a character piece that tests everything that the characters have gained trust from each other in the previous 2 stories, An Unearthly Child and the Daleks. And as I said, it acts phenomenally good as a character piece, and controversially enough, it's one of the best Hartnells in my opinion. Very bizarre choice, but it might even make my top 5. I'm not even kidding. But there is one thing that I will say about the general consensus, and that is I fucking despise the general consensus about the ending, and I quite frankly just don't get why people bitch and complain about the ending. Here is why. To me, people are not understanding the story in the slightest when it comes to the ending, and it annoys me that they degrade the rating of the actual adventure itself just because of how anticlimactic the ending is. And my answer to that is the Edge of Destruction about that specific and, in the grand scheme of things, anticlimactic problem? No, it isn't. If anything, this problem is a plot device within the story, activating the main plot and drive of the story, which is the Doctor and company interacting with themselves, trying to puzzle out this problem, acting as a character piece of them reflecting on the past adventures and the liberation and anticipation of death in the final part. The problem in question and character piece likeness of this story is translated amazingly into this book adaptation of the story, and fleshed out into what is akin to being a full Mind Robber episode length parter. We get to explore rooms of these characters that we have never heard of in the TV series, which even the actual heart of the TARDIS and its power source predating Journey to the Centre of the Earth, or Journey to the Centre of the TARDIS by over 2 decades. I wonder who would be happy about that. Nigel Robinson has magnificently recreated this story and characters, and has created one utterly great novelisation that I will say is one of the very best Target books you can ever read.